being soft on Russia also means that we end up being soft on China, because if China was to move on Taiwan, there's no European ally for a second would consider even jumping in with us after watching us abandon Ukraine. So today, Donald Trump masterfully demonstrated the art of no deal. And also, I would be interested in Ambassador McCall's thinking on this, because Trump wanted to point out a couple times the business potential that could come out of this. But I don't really understand, what can we get from Russia? What do we need from Russia? Like more vodka and caviar at Mar-a-Lago? They're not big trading partners even during the best times. So it just shows how easily he can be manipulated by them to believe that he's getting something.
Well, it wasn't part of the potential was that he was going to talk about all the mineral-rich areas of Ukraine that if he had access to, he would love to dabble in?
Right. Well, 2 points I'd make. First of all, the point about the war escalating, I think, is a really important one to underscore. Yes. The war is getting bigger under Donald Trump. He keeps saying there would have been no war under me. Well, let's be clear. There are more drones by multiples, more drones being shot at civilians under President Trump versus President Biden. And number two, we have stopped military assistance to Ukraine. We have abandoned Ukraine. Yes, we're selling weapons to our European friends. We're literally making money off of that war, something that I find embarrassing as American. But the end of that assistance, we are abandoning them. So Ukraine is actually worse off under President Trump. And this myth that he keeps going back to, and Putin did him the courtesy of underscoring the myth that there would be no war and everything's better under President Trump. The facts on the ground are exactly the opposite.
Nicole Wallace, we have some reporting from the New York Times. You have a retired general, now member of Russia's parliament, crowing that Putin's remarks at the press conference showed that the Kremlin's position was, quote, unwavering. If there was a breakthrough, he wrote on his Telegram channel, it was that Putin could explain directly to Mr. Trump the reasons for the war. What is the message about the U.S.'s role on the global stage in light of those remarks, Nicole?
Well, again, I think it's senseless to compare Trump, frankly, to President Obama or President Clinton or either the Presidents Bush. But it is instructive to compare President Trump to the last President Trump. And on the first overseas trip that Trump took, H.R. McMaster and Dina Powell called back to the press in the U.S., urging us to take all of his live remarks, because at the next speech they would say he's going to affirm America's commitment to Article 5. He's going to affirm our commitment to NATO, not just because we're the only country that's ever drawn out of our Article 5 commitment that an attack on one is an attack on all, but because he understands the value of NATO. No one has said the word NATO all day long.
Nope.
I mean, Trump didn't say it. Putin didn't say it. No one has said NATO all day long. And so I think the Kremlin message is that they recognized in Trump a post-NATO American president, which is just a gut blow. It goes to, I mean, you go to a baseball game in this country, a Major League Baseball game or a minor league baseball game, and if they have a World War II veteran in attendance, they're honored and they're given a flag by some player that isn't playing that night. It is who we are. World War II is part of the fabric of who we are as a country. And today we had an American president standing next to a ruthless dictator who got that American president to refuse to affirm who we are and our commitment to NATO and our commitment to this sort of post-World War II global order. We shouldn't, I mean, there's so much in the optics that are so galling that's where my sort of brain has gone like a cat chasing the laser. But if you sit down and let this sink in, and I've been able to do that listening to some of you guys, this was a cataclysmic event in the American experiment. The idea that we're an idea, nothing that happened today is consistent with the idea of America.
It is amazing to me, Nicole, that all day you have heard people compare this to Yalta in 1945 and say, well, the real difference here is that if this were Yalta, China would be in the room. It is not Yalta. Yeah. This was not global superpowers sitting down and carving up territory and talking about maps. This was egomaniacs.
Chewing the fat.
In a room.
Yeah.
Chewing the fat at best.
Yeah. And the casual references to Ukraine, perhaps stopping 5,000 or 7,000 people a week from being killed, and Putin talking about the root causes of the war and the fact that the U.S. and Russian relations are at their lowest point since the Cold War. It's as if Ukraine was incidental. That this invasion of Ukraine is just the sort of, poke in the side to something else that's been going on. And Vladimir Putin would have you believe that, right? He said that. He said this was about Russia's valid security concerns. That was BS then, and it's BS now. And the president of the United States had an opportunity to say that's nonsense, but he didn't. If McFaul were there, he would have known the history because he's been telling us this for years. Most of us have read that history. Donald Trump, I don't know if he doesn't know it or doesn't care about it, but that was his opportunity to say, no, this war is not about your security concerns. It was about you invading a sovereign country.
Well, and we're getting response now from Ukraine. I just want to read a little bit to you and then have you respond, Ambassador McFaul. Ukrainian officials in Kyiv anxiously watch the news conference. Any clues about their country's history? This is from the New York Times. But as the inconclusive meeting ended, they now think the war will continue unabated, at least for now. I think it's a failure, this is a quote, because Putin was again talking about security concerns and used his usual rhetoric. This is from Alexander Moresko, a Ukrainian politician. Quote, I don't see any changes.
Tragically, I agree. I hope I'm wrong. We all hope that there was something done that will maybe lead to a meeting and a ceasefire and all those things. But the evidence we have so far, that's the conclusion you have to draw. And just to build on this bigger point, which I think is also incredibly important, President Trump today is normalizing imperialism. Mm-hmm. He's normalizing annexation. He's Putin has had this view forever. He's always said, this is just the way great powers act. What's different about us? We've done this for 1,000 years. That's the way he talks, right? But we fought a war, World War II, to Nicole's point. Mm-hmm. And then after that horrific war, we said, we don't want to be part of that world anymore. We want to stop annexation. We want to build a security architecture that doesn't just say might makes right and you can just invade your country if you want. And especially, it's a dictatorship invading a democracy. We, for many, many decades, were saying we want a different world. Today, it just felt like we're normalizing imperialism. And that's not a world I think I want to go back to. And I don't think that serves America's national security interest to go back to that world.